What's tea, bestie? How you doing? How your edges? How your kids? How that man? Girl, you know we don't give a damn how that man doing, bestie. You see what I'm saying? We are here to talk about the Testament. I know. It's like I just came and did those 3 episodes and then I left y'all in the wind. We at episode 7 and I'm just popping back up. I'm very much giving a father going to get a carton of milk, never to return again. But you must have got drafted in the NBA because I'm back, baby. I'm back, baby. I'm back, baby. Okay, let's jump into it because I definitely have stuff to do today. We still have Euphoria tonight and all of the things. And I'm just in here acting like I'm not about to leave my house. So basically, this episode starts. We are briefly in Gilead. We see our girl Daisy. She is waking up, and then we are met with a flashback where Daisy is still sitting at the diner waiting for someone from Mayday to come pick her up. The diner closes. Once the diner closes, the lady who was the waitress there all day, turns out that her name is Linda. She is a part of Mayday. She is the handoff that June was speaking about. We back in Gilead. We see Daisy getting up to put her little radio up under what was her name? Talia. I want to say her name was Talia's bed. Her and another Pearl girl are going to have their treatment. What is their treatment? They're going to have their tattoos removed because, you know, in Gilead, it's okay to marry a child, but it's not okay to have tattoos. Right. Anyway, so they're getting ready to go and have their treatment done. Simultaneously, we see Paula Boxhead ass sitting at the kitchen table. She is elated to see Agnes's matches, specifically Commander Weston. Because Commander Weston is over the eye, he has a lot of power. If Agnes was to pair with him and he was to choose her as a wife, then that means Paula Boxhead ass would, as a residual, also get better treatment. More Marthas, more this, more that. So essentially it would be a status upgrade, and that's the only thing that Paula is truly interested in, because how could somebody with only 2 tablespoons of hair actually care about anything else but herself? You see what I'm saying? But whatever, I digress, right? So she shows Agnes her matches. Agnes is clearly disappointed about her matches because Garth is not one of the matches on the table, and Paula could give a damn. You know what I mean? Paula's like, girl, Weston is who you want to impress, girl. We don't care about nobody else. God has shined his light, his favor on you, and you are going to be glad because of it, right? So Agnes is clearly just feeling a little bit of a way, but her Martha, I can't remember her name right now because I'm trying to rush through this, so y'all know who I'm talking about, the pretty redhead lady. She was like, hey, you know, God shines his light down on us, and the devil is shining his light on me because why would you turn off? So after that, we see Daisy and I want to say her name was Opal getting their tattoos removed. And they're just trying to laugh through the pain. While they're getting their tattoos removed, we are back at the school and we see all of the girls, Agnes, Becca, Hulda, and all of them just talking about, you know, their excitement for their matches and the home visits that are coming up and just sharing their feelings. And so, you know, Agnes is clearly disappointed, but these girls have been conditioned to think that this is their entire life, this is their entire identity, is to, you know, be some old crusty man's wife who has power and have kids and all of these things. So they're just telling her to kind of rejoice. So Becca tells who her matches are, and obviously, you know, Becca won't out of this simulation. She don't want no parts of this. She doesn't want to get married. She wants to have her own free will, and she's just not excited about what this process looks like. But she reluctantly tells the girls, the commander that got her drunk, the old crusty man, a commander from the colonies, which barbarians, right? And Garth. And Garth, girl, Agnes trying to keep it P. Agnes trying to make it seem like, oh, I'm not tripping about that. But deep down inside, her edges are definitely agitated and percolated by this news. So Becca gets up. She storms out of the cafeteria. Agnes runs behind her. And Agnes is like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Why would I ever be mad at you? But please don't marry him. Girl, why would you ever think that she had a decision in the matter, right? And Becca knows that. Becca is like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, you making it seem like I get to choose. Nothing about this life do we have a right to choose. Like, everything is essentially decided for us. My camera was crooked. That's what I was doing, so it's just gonna stay in. nothing about this life do we have the freedom to choose. I would rather jump out of a window because I don't want to do any of this. We see that Becca has basically broke out of the matrix in her mind, but she's still having to go along with, everything that's going on. And, Agnes is like, why are you being like this? This is, what some of us want. Some of us, our life's mission is to be a wife and have babies, and this is what I want, so I'm asking you not to marry him. And Becca is like, ho, is you cool? Like, really, is you cool? Because you talking about, you making it seem like you got a choice in the matter. Like, you could just run away and fall in love with this man. You making it seem like I got a choice in the matter. And the fact that you don't see what I see means we not really on the same brainwave. I thought that me and you was twinning them. I thought we was locked in, but we really not locked in for real. And, it's sad to see. As all of this is going on, the girls are all coming out from lunch or whatever. And now they're starting to huddle in the hallway. As they're starting to huddle in the hallway, and Daisy is now walking up from getting her treatment, in comes Commander Weston. The thing about Gilead is, this place is a place of structure. You have your Marthas, you have your wives, you have your all handmaids, all of these things, right? But in all of these chains that they have built, they've simultaneously built a system for communication that we are learning that the young girls are definitely using as a way to pass along information. One of the girls even jokes that, one of the girls can be a spy because of who her dad is. She hears this information and she's passing it along. So they know that, intel has come in from Boston that there could be a possible Mayday mole in the school. So now they're coming to sweep the school. Daisy is shaking in her boots. She's scared. She don't know what to do because she think that the walls are closing in on her. You know what I'm saying? And simultaneously, Agnes is over here like, ooh, girl, this is the man that they really trying to get me to marry. He is creeping me out. And it comes out during this whole conversation between the girls that Commander Weston was also previously married. And that's important to the story because it's going to come in handy later on, right? Right. So as Weston comes in, he's in the Pearl dormitory. They call 3 of the Pearl girls to go and interview with Weston. We are then greeted with a flashback of Daisy as she is waking up in Rita's apartment. And I just thought it was so good to see Rita. Like, hey, Rita, girl, how you doing, sister? Your bob look cute. I'm loving what you're doing with yourself. You in culinary school, which is amazing because, given the way that Gilead structured and used the kitchen as a place of punishment or a place of order, Rita has taken that and gone to culinary school and turned it into a passion. So I thought that was this very beautiful parallel to see what she was able to do with life outside of Gilead. But anyway, we see Daisy is waking up. Rita is taking a picture of her. Rita is telling her, girl, we got to get you out of here. Everywhere is compromised, so we going to have to send you to Colombia. Your family has saved up some money for you so that you could get away. They have prepared for things like this. Daisy is starting to learn about these fragments of her past. And so, she asked Rita, if these weren't my biological parents, who are my biological parents? And that's when Rita explains to her, your biological parents never made it out of Gilead. They have passed away, which only further fuels Daisy's fire to want to fight the fight. And, she says 5 finger finna Gilead. And Rita's like, that's what we trying to do. That's what we trying to do. And so by unveiling that information about Daisy's parents, we now see that despite what it is in the novel, because in adaptations don't follow the novel, right? I'm going to make sure that the definition is here because the book warriors love to get in the comment section and in the book it happened like this. Okay, bitch, this ain't the book, this the series, right? So in the series, Daisy, aka Marguerite, aka not Nicole, aka not June's daughter. By not making Daisy June's other daughter, we now know that Daisy is like a daughter figure. She is in close proximity to June. June took her in like a mother figure. And now that she is in Gilead, she has this close proximity to Agnes like a sister, but biologically they are not related. Linda comes back with the passport information. Daisy is still on this whole, I'm ready to fight the fight. I'm ready to get in the field. And I really just feel like I agree with Rita and what she was saying in the sense of you feel brave because you're angry right now. But feeling brave and being brave are two different things. And in all honesty, you really don't know what you finna get yourself into. But Daisy's attitude annoys me. I'm not gonna lie. Daisy agitates my edges week to week, child. Every week I'm stressed out. I want to smoke a Newport. I don't even smoke cigarettes for real. Like, it's too much, Daisy. I need you to chill, because what you don't understand is, girl, you will be strung up like Christmas lights with the way that you playing these games. You need to understand that you are in a very real situation. Daisy wasn't understanding that. Linda was like, hey, we actually should not have her go into Gilead. Rita is like, well, June has a plan, and the plan kind of revolves around having someone of her age infiltrate the system. And Linda is like, yeah, of course she does, because she has a horse in the race. And now Daisy like, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is her having a horse in the race mean? But she don't say nothing about it in the moment. And it pretty much is decided that they're gonna move through with the plan of Daisy now becoming a part of Mayday and infiltrating Gilead. We also see in another flashback the reason that Daisy got the tattoo was just so she can look the part. They dyed her hair blue and all of these things to make sure that she was convincing for being able to like be a wanderer on the streets and a homeless like wild child that would be handsome to be recruited by somewhere like Gilead, because Gilead swear they can save souls. They swear that's what they in there doing, but child, it's not what they doing at all. As we see Rita, telling Daisy why she got the tattoo, and the tattoo is just like a flower with thorns on it, but she even makes the comment that she should have got daisies because daisies can grow anywhere, just speaking to the resilience that I think that Daisy is kind of showing us outside of the agitation that she's also deploying on all of our edges. She's definitely a resilient woman, and she keeps being able to kind of prevail in these tight situations. It's at that point we learn that Daisy is actually just her nickname, because her real name is Marguerite. All of the things that I just explained. Daisy is really feeling herself about infiltrating this system. She is already heavily underestimating these women, and she's kind of joking that, these are girls that don't even know these basic things about how life really works, so it's gonna be a walk in the park to go into Gilead. And Rita checked her right on the spot. Hey! Don't underestimate them. That's the number one thing you don't want to do. And she gives her the list of rules that she needs to follow in order to stay alive. Only follow your handler. It's going to get lonely in there. You're going to want friendships, but friendships will get you killed, as well as underestimating these women, because these girls are vigilant in a way that you can never understand, because you wasn't raised under the conditions of Gilead. So you cannot sleep on them just because their strength doesn't look like what your strength is, which I think is very fitting for the name of this episode, because the name of this episode was called The Commitment. And like initially we think that it's the commitment of, the weddings that are happening and the matchmaking and all of that is going on. But then we see this shift between the commitment of Daisy and fighting for a cause that she really don't know anything about. And then it also shifts again to this commitment that Agnes has to a man that she's already starting to figure out before weddings even happen, right? So there's all these beautiful parallels that's happening at the same time in this episode, which, even though I feel like I liked Lydia's episode better, I liked episode 6 better, I think that episode 7 was a lot richer in context. But anyways, after that flashback, we are back in Gilead, and now Daisy is sitting in front of Commander Weston. He is commending her for, for the way that she sprung into action when the incident on the bus occurred. And he's trying to figure out like where she came from, how she knew how to spring into action like that. And fortunately for Daisy, just barely, because really she was so nervous that I thought she was going to get found out, but she kind of hid perfectly in the backstory that we see Rita drilling into her head about, she ran away to be with her boyfriend. She ended up alone in Canada. When she ended up alone, that is when, she ran into the Pearl Girls, and the Pearl Girls saved her life. Blessed are the fruit, may the Lord open. Mind you, Daisy is nervous not just because this man holds the fate of her life or death in his hands, but also she recognizes his face because as she's talking to him, we then see this flashback of her sitting outside with Rita, where she asked Rita, what did Linda mean by June having a horse in the race? That's when Rita explains to her that June has a daughter that's around her same age that's still in Gilead. And as they're having this conversation, we see that the file in front of her is Commander Weston. He, before he came into Gilead to marry underage women, was a crypto bro and a demon because he had domestic violence charges and all these things, restraining orders, all the things, right? The usual MO for the type of man who would get behind a world like Gilead, right? They're usually demons, they're slimy, they're mucky, they probably smell like mayonnaise that's been out in the sun all day. You know what I'm saying? Just all around creepy vibes, creepy uncle vibes for sure. She recognizes him. They get through the interview. She runs out of the interview room. She's panicking. She's breathing all heavy. Agnes sees our girl in distress and she goes in to check up on her, have a conversation with her. She says to Daisy, you know, I realize that I've been so caught up with all this marriage stuff that I haven't been, you know, the shepherd to you that Aunt Lydia wanted me to be. So you should come over my house after school. And, you know, first Daisy is like, bitch, I don't want your pity. But eventually she's like, I'm not pitying you. I admire your strength. I just want us to be able to connect. And she agrees to, you know, go over to Agnes's house. Before we even get over to them being over at Agnes's house, we see Daisy. She's on the street. She's now starting, you know, to move. She's now a part of Mayday. She's appearing to be a homeless person. One of the Pearl girls come up to her, offer her a place to come and take a bath, have a hot meal, get some clean clothes. And Daisy, you know, reluctantly accepts because she doesn't want to seem too willing. And after she's in there, she's eating her food. She's kind of being fake difficult. They bring her clothes and she gets dressed and she gets ready to leave. They decide that they want to pray for her. She thinks it's a setup, it's a trick. But they just stand around her and they pray for her protection. And as they're praying for her protection and like looking into her eyes, which will make me feel like, girl, you're not really praying for me because your eyes not even closed. Like, who are you praying to staring me dead in my face? I don't know. I don't like it. It feels crazy. Then we hear this commentary of this picture that is an optical illusion. And when you initially look at the picture, you see this beautiful woman. And if you look at the picture long enough, or if someone points it out to you in that very same picture, you see this old woman. And once your eyes have seen both parts of the picture, you can never go back to seeing the picture for what it truly is, which I feel like represents both Daisy and Agnes, because Daisy is coming into Gilead with the full picture. She's able to see the whole enchilada for what it is. But then as the commentary ends, we're in Agnes's room, which shows that Agnes is being raised inside this picture. And as of now, she's only able to see one part of it, right? So we're looking at this beautiful dollhouse and she's laying out her clothes for home visits, and she explains to Daisy that, you know, this is going to be put into storage and it'll be my daughter's, God willing, because this room has already rehearsed the life for her. All of her destiny is pre-planned, if you will. So the girls are just kind of talking, and Daisy is explaining like what her life was like and that she never had a room this big. And she starts to tell Agnes about the type of music she was into, and like she talk about one of the bands, and the bands talk about love and loss and relationships. And then Agnes is like, that sounds horrible, and she wouldn't want to live in a world like that. And, you know, Daisy explains to her that it wasn't all bad, and at least we had the freedom to choose who we wanted to love, which clearly kind of strikes a point in Agnes, because Agnes is finding herself wanting to love Garth and be with Garth, but the world that she lives in does not allow for, you know, that type of outcome. So Agnes walks off, and Daisy thinks that she's upset Agnes, but she goes into her little drawer and she has this little pouch of trinkets that she's been collecting when she sees them in the garden, when she sees them on the beach. She basically just has fragments of a world that Gilead is essentially trying to keep her from. She shows Agnes this little tube that has a rose inside of it. And, you know, Agnes is talking about how she kind of romanticize what these trinkets are and the stories of them, but Daisy holds essentially the truth about what this reality is, right? So she kind of starts telling Agnes like this was used for like drug addicts back in the real world, and Agnes didn't understand that because these are things that Agnes has never seen. And before she starts to just really like pull the lens back and tell her what it really is, Daisy stops herself and was like, why would I ruin her image of a world, and life is already going to do that to her. She quickly starts to dilute her explanation, and Agnes catches it. Agnes catches, what it is that she's trying to do. But what we see is Daisy is again underestimating Agnes. You don't think that she can handle the truth, so you determine how much of the truth of the world she gets to have in that moment, which is the same thing that Gilead is doing to her, if we're being honest, right? Now, I want to take a look at the trinkets that were shown, because not just the rose, because I think the rose was the most important piece, because the rose symbolized the fantasy that Gilead has made Agnes. But if you look at the other things, they're equally as important, because essentially Agnes has a bag full of contradictions. So they have a pen. In Gilead, the women are raised to be homemakers. They're literally going to school to learn how to be homemakers. We see them learn how to knit. We see them learn how to do all of these things. We never see them reading, writing, or arithmeticing. So they're literally raised away from the pen. And now she has the very thing that makes her the author of the story. It's not lost on me that that she has this die that's this symbol of chance, where she lives in a culture that quite literally stands against it. Her whole future is pre-planned out for her, and it's assigned in order of rank. And the rose itself really just exposes this illusion between the world that Agnes romanticized in her head and the reality of what the world really is. Agnes can clearly tell that Daisy is basically trying to heavily clean up her answer, and so she decides to go ahead and start getting ready because home visits are starting. And then we see a montage of the home visits, which with the home visits, let me just say this, is it just me, or does Holda's match look like he could be her brother? Like, they definitely look related. And something about that really bothers my spirit. Holda is having her home visits. She over here slow blinking and side-eyeing her brother cousin, because you can't tell me that they not related. Rebecca is over here. She's just not interested until Garth come in the room. I thought you ain't want to get married. Oh, okay, because I thought you ain't want to get married, Becca. I thought that wasn't on your plate, right? Right, but all of a sudden, Garth's coming there. Garth is just seeming like he's going to be just a nice man. And Garth really does give that he's like humane and he's nice and he would be a good man to her. He would be kind to her and he would consider her to be more than just property. And, you see Rebecca kind of perk up and kind of smirk a little bit, because I hear what you're saying, Agnes, but at the end of the day, he my match, not yours. Sorry, babe. Right? And then finally we see Agnes, and we see Agnes going through her matches, the last match being Commander Weston. And when I tell you Paula Boxhead ass was putting on a show, girl, she was putting on a show. Just cream of wheat commotion. May the Lord open. I'm trying to tell you, like, the girl, she let me get you a drink. She answering for her, all of the things, right? Because she's trying to impress Commander Weston so that she could get the benefits that would come with Agnes being married off to this demon. Commander Weston kind of like tell her, like, chill, like, he don't tell her to chill, but he's like, do you have any questions for me, Agnes? Paula's like, she would never. Hush, whore, no one's talking to you, right? So he tell her, like, no, she can answer the question. Agnes kind of sits there. Now, remember, earlier they had this conversation. Agnes found out about Commander Weston having a wife previously. Now this world of secrets and communication has garnered a weapon for our good sis Agnes, and she decides to pull it out and use it and put it on the table. So now we are having a conversation about the one thing in the room that I'm sure nobody wanted to have a conversation about, because she says, and she do it real cute. It was real cute how she did it. I just hope that I'm gonna be able to be, everything that a wife should be, especially considering that you was already married. Yeah. Clock it. Clock it. So everybody's uncomfortable. Commander Weston is swiggling around in his seat. Now all of a sudden he gotta go. He gotta leave. And Paula is clearly agitated, girl. She is fuming, girl. That little teapot was short and stout, baby. She could have tipped over and been poured out. She was so mad. So they get to the door, and Commander Weston turns around and tells Agnes, he was married before, and it was the worst day of his life because it was the day that his baby died, right? Not the wife, the baby. So using that forced Commander Weston to expose his hand as far as how he prioritizes certain things in his life. And it worked out because now, Agnes has the full picture of it. You didn't even care about losing your wife because a wife is expendable. We know from before you even brought your ass into Gilead, you never value women. Women have to have restraining orders against you. So you don't really see women as, people. You see them as things to possess, things that can be replaced. It was the child that had you tore up, right? So he says that, he leaves the house. Paula tells Agnes, get away from me before I hit you. And I wish you would. And I wish you would. And I wish you would, because if you put your hands on my knees, Paula, I promise I'm going to wring you out like a towel. I'm really tired of you, whore. I'm really tired of you. I truly am. But what I loved is, it was at that moment that Paula seemed to have realized that changing her name don't change her claim to fame. You see what I'm saying? In season 1, episode 7, when June told her husband, save Hannah, what they didn't realize is baby Hannah was going to save herself, because it ain't what's on you, it's what's in you. And she is her mother's child, even though she don't know who her mother is. And I love that. I love that. I love it. You see what I'm saying? She gonna running out the house or whatever. She see Garth. He over here smoking them cancer sticks, girl, because he love them cancer sticks. He throw the little cancer stick down and walk off as she's like kind of walking up behind him, which how he didn't hear her footsteps, I don't know, child, but whatever. So she see the cigarette on the ground, girl. She picked the little cigarette up. She French kissing the cigarette. She kissing the cigarette down, girl. Cancer, girl. You in here French kissing a cigarette, sister. We don't have time for this. We don't have time. So Garth see her picking up the cigarette. He jokingly says no smoking. Now she's scared. And she asks him, do I have a personality? And Garth immediately answers yes. You know what I mean? Because, again, we are starting to see our girls starting to break out of this simulation. Start to see that, like, there's more to life. I want more to life. I want to be more than just somebody's wife, ordered to be somebody's wife and just popping out babies for them. And so he immediately answers yes, which is tricky because are you catching feelings, Garth? Are you catching feelings? You gonna be strung up too. You playing a dangerous game, baby. You can't be playing with these girls like that. You can't be doing that. You cannot be doing that. And I get it. Because Agnes is a beautiful girl, but chill, brother, chill. Because if something happened to you, what's going to happen to Daisy? So, there's this kind of awkward tension between them because it's very clear to me that feelings are starting to form on both ends. Agnes does what most girls do. Well, how was your little house visit? How was your visit over at old girl house? I would never do that because a man could never play with me like that. Please. Anyway, so so Garth tell her, go inside. But after all of that, we see Commander Weston is back in the Pearl dormitory and makes this big deal about, finding a traitor. They snatch up the wrong girl, take her out. Scared one of the girls so bad, my girl peed on herself. Baby girl tinkled on herself, which no judgment, I probably would have peed on myself too. And it shook. And so Daisy done got this lady caught up in the rapture and got her strung up somewhere. Now she's so scared, she praying. The girl who was, I didn't even know that she knew who Jesus John Quavius Christ was. I didn't know she even knew him like that. Now she praying. Because when you're scared, that's when you go to the source, right? The source that you acted like wasn't really a source. Right. Okay. So now she praying. She's scared. She done got this girl strung up somewhere. It's an unfortunate situation, but Daisy does survive, this sweep. The other part of that I want to talk about, and I wonder how it's going to come into play is we see a flashback, right? We see a flashback of the day that Daisy basically got handed over, decided to go ahead and join Gilead, and they do this trade at a border to they give Daisy over to the handlers, and Garth is the one who went through her bag and found that very radio in front of other people and said this is contraband and kept it. So I don't feel like they would have shown that if it wasn't for nothing, and I'm curious to see, is that going to get Garth caught up some way when somebody sees the radio and recognizes the radio from the day that they took Daisy in and brought her over to Gilead. I was very curious about that because y'all ain't show that for no reason. That's all I'm saying. Is y'all ain't show that for no reason. It was very clearly stated that it was contraband and they would have taken it from her. So how did she get it back? So I feel like it's going to point that Garth is also a part of Mayday. That's what I'm trying to get to. That's what I'm nervous about. But the real tea is back in Agnes's house when Paula come hopping down the trail to go in the room and have a conversation with Agnes. She comes in the bathroom as Agnes is getting ready for bed. Agnes, apologizes about her behavior or whatever, and Paula tells her, well, the Lord is actually on your side because your little act of rebellion didn't work and he actually still wants you. Which for me is the strongest parallel to June, because Commander Weston saw her spirit as something that could be broken. It's something to push against. It's something to break down, the same way that Commander Fred saw June. Like, the parallels are paralleling. That's what I'm saying. And obviously, Paula is excited about that, even though, it's not the best news for Agnes. Agnes thought that she successfully killed that match, but no go. He just wants her even more now because, that's how that go. The other thing that was really highlighted is the way that Paula used her previous profession as a weapon. She used language to make compliance kind of sound like a diagnosis. It really just shows that some of these hoes are in Gilead and they are no better than the men that are in Gilead as well. Just to be able to use ideology like that as a weapon to try to get her to conform and do the things that you wanted her to do. It's also the second time that we hear this like horse language being used, but inside of Gilead it's technically used as ownership. She says that it's no fun to break a horse with a docile spirit, so he is gonna have more fun breaking a horse who is spirited and who needs to be broken in. And just really showing that they don't value these women as women. They are truly seen as objects inside of this system. And essentially, girl, that is how the episode ends, child. Listen, Gilead is gonna forever be a place that has me stressed and my edges in cardiac arrest, because please, like, I could never be in Gilead. I just could not live in a world like Gilead. I would definitely either be a part of Mayday or I would be strung up somewhere, because I just couldn't do it. I just could not conform to the rules and regulations of this place. Love that we see this illustration of you can change the name to try to change the identity of a person, but you can't change their spirit. That's what we're seeing happening with Agnes. Like, you call her Agnes, but she is Hannah, daughter of June. I think that it illustrates that, Gilead is, though it is a place that tries to rule by force, it isn't exactly working in the way that they thought it was going to work. I even got to have a conversation with the young lady who plays Miriam. Her name is Bariva. And one of the things that she said as we were talking in the interview was the same thing, is that if you look at Gilead, Gilead is a place that tries to suppress identity. And in The Handmaid's Tale, we saw what happened when freedom was taken away. But what I enjoyed the most about the Testament is that we're seeing people who never really had it to begin with. Like, as your point, like, they were raised in this world. How does that shift the way identity is formed in Gilead?
I think it's so, vital in terms of like your identity to know where you come from. And for me, like, um identity is so rooted in like where my parents come from and like my roots to like my South Asian heritage and culture. And you don't really seem to find that in the Testaments, even though we have such a diverse cast. The girl's parentage is so ambiguous.
Yes.
And that is very purposeful, and it's a way, again, it's a way that Gilead is able to strip another part of you and your identity and like the authenticity of each girl.
Because they understand the power that identity and knowing your roots and knowing where you come from possess. Unfortunately for them, I think that they feel like in Gilead, by trying to strip somebody of that, that is the only way they'll be able to buck against the system. And the spirit is the spirit. And again, it ain't what's on you, it's what's, you know what I mean? Anyway, Best Eileen, I want you to talk to me in the comments. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me how you feel. We only got a couple of episodes left. There's 10 episodes in the season. So we got, 3 episodes left. I'm going to do my best to be here on time. On time. The Lord is working with me. Blessed are the fruit. Blessed are the fruit. Anyways, talk to me in the comment section. If you not done hearing me, you knew I was finna body roll. Stop playing. You knew I was finna body roll for you, girl. I was finna body roll for you, girl. Hit that little folder right there. See what I be yapping about, talking about, doing all the things. And until next time, love you. Bye.